Okay, so on to number 18. Now, 18, a nice, massive 8-mark question, a discuss question. At the end of the exam is pretty heavy. So I appreciate that a lot of people found that a bit of a kick in the teeth once they got to that stage. But hopefully you managed to slog your way through it and kept the energy up for that last question. Okay, so let's see, what was it actually talking about? Discuss why different user interfaces require the use of different types of input device. Okay, so this is a big question, and I'm going to go with the way that I think it wants you to deal with it, but I'm not without my own doubts here. So if you've got better ideas, please post them below, and we can have a discussion going. But I think what we need to do is start by, like I said, with a discuss question. It's always really good to just break it down and say, okay, what's the information? Brainstorm a little bit, and then use it to try and build up your answer. So let's start by saying different user interfaces. What are we talking about there? Well, of course, we have the oldest one, I guess, CLI, which is going to be a command line interface. Okay. We're going to have a GUI, and for that, which is going to be a graphical user interface, which is WIMP. Now, here's a bit that, and I'm pretty sure it's going to have these in it. Oh, by the way, WIMP is, I'm sure you know, windows, icons, menus, and pointing devices. Okay, now we've got the GUI, but GUI, we have the WIMP one. So let's actually not do it that way. Let's do it as this way, because it's going to be a subtopic. But we also nowadays we have post WIMP, which are things like your touch screens and other things where it's moved on from standard mice and things. We're more using touch screens and things like this. Again, we'll come back to the input devices involved. And again, it might be a bit too far out of what we've done before, but I'm thinking a lot of us are now using voice commands as well. They've got different things like Siri and all these other programs. And again, that is a way for the user to interface with these programs. And I suppose that's what's really hard about these exams, is maybe there's a lot of stuff in the books, but then there's a lot of stuff that people, you have to engage your imagination to some extent, engage your memory, and put it all together to build up this answer. Even though it hasn't really talked about this in the syllabus, I'm not sure this is even part of the right answer to the question, but I want it on my brainstorm so that it's in my head. Okay, so different interfaces require different types of input. So we'll get a command line interface, and for an input I'm going to need to have a keyboard, for sure. A graphical user interface, well, WIMP, it's already told us pointing devices, so I'm going to have a mouse, or maybe a touchpad, or something like that. Post WIMP is going to be something like a touch screen. And then my voice commands, again, tenuous, but we'll throw it in, better too much than not enough. We're going to need microphone. Okay, so now that we've thought about that, we need to think about advantages and disadvantages, but I think we could probably jump into actually answering the question at this stage. Okay, so big one. There are many different types of user interface. And each each of these require a specific input devices in order to interact with them. Okay. Let's say, okay, for example, we have a command line interface. With this type of UI, we need to have a way of typing out text in full. And for this, we require, for this, the most standard device would be a keyboard. This has the advantage of giving us a lot of control over the control over the system. However, it's difficult for non-specialists to interact with the system, and it is not very portable compared to other options. Okay, so maybe we want a bit of paragraphing here. I don't know if that's a proper English paragraph, to be honest, but we also have a graphical user interface which uses windows, icons, and menus. In order to interact with those objects, we need some kind of pointing device. For the most common of which is a mouse. However, there are other options like touchpads and tracker balls available. The big advantage of using a mouse is that we have a lot of control over the pointer and can make fine movements. However, a mouse requires a flat surface, and so for that reason it is not very portable, it's not very portable. Okay, so we've got command line interface, device, advantage, disadvantage. We've got a graphical user interface with this, advantage, disadvantage. Well, this should be. We also have graphical user interfaces. Sorry, I need to change this here. We also have graphical user interfaces. Traditionally, which use Windows icons, menus, and pointers. Right. Portable. Nowadays, however, portable devices such as smartphones and tablets require post-WIMP interface. This is where we still use graphics to represent files and programs, but we still use graphics to represent files and programs, but the mouse would no longer be suitable. For this reason, many devices or many post-WIMP interfaces use touchscreens as they are the most portable. However, they tend to have locked commands and so are not as versatile as a CLI and keyboard, and compared to a mouse or pointing device. Oh dear, I went terribly wrong. Pointing device, they lack the same control and precision. Okay. Okay, so far. And then additionally, we could talk about if you didn't feel you had enough points, you could possibly talk about sound control. Like I said, that's a question mark. I don't know if you're going to get points for talking about that kind of interface. And in the end, you should try and finish with the conclusion. In conclusion, there is no such thing as a best device or best interface, but you should pick the most suitable for the task. I'm running out of time here. Suitable for the task or the interface with which you interact. Okay, so I mean, I'm pretty sure that might get you the points. Again, if you disagree with this, if you get better ideas, post them below, and we'll try and have a discussion about it. But I think that's what they're looking for, and hopefully that would get you the required